The cabin air hums with the usual mix of chatter, shuffling feet, and overhead bins slamming shut. Passengers squeeze down the narrow aisle, some eager to sit, others already annoyed by delays. At row 12, tension is about to ignite. A young black woman, Monica Harris, clutches her boarding pass. She's dressed in a navy blazer, her hair neatly pulled back, a look of calm professionalism masking the fatigue of a long day. She pauses beside her assigned seat, window row 12, only to find a stranger already sitting there. She smiles politely. "Excuse me, this is my seat." Before the man can move, the flight attendant appears. Blonde hair in a tight bun, lips pressed thin, she cuts Monica off. No, you'll need to move further back. This row is taken." Monica frowns, showing her ticket. "But it says 12A, right here." The attendant's tone sharpens, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "I don't care what it says. You'll sit where I tell you. Don't cause a scene." Heads turn, a couple in row 11 exchange uneasy looks. A teenager across the aisle lifts his phone, recording. Monica steadies her voice. "Ma'am, I paid for this seat. I'd like to sit here." The attendant scoffs, crossing her arms. "People like you should be grateful just to be on the plane." Gasps ripple. A mother 2 rows back whispers, "Did she really just say that?" A businessman leans into the aisle, muttering, "Unbelievable." Phones rise higher, recording every second. Monica's chest tightens, but she refuses to shrink. She keeps her composure, gripping her boarding pass like a shield. "I have every right to be here." The attendant leans closer, her voice a hiss. "If you don't move, I'll have you escorted off this flight." Passengers murmur angrily now, some calling out, "Let her sit down!" Others shake their heads, whispering about lawsuits. Monica's hands tremble, but her eyes stay locked on the woman blocking her path. Then, a voice cuts through the cabin. Firm, commanding. "What's going on here?" All eyes shift to the front of the plane. A tall man in a tailored suit steps down the aisle, his presence impossible to ignore. His face is familiar, too familiar. Gasps break out. "Is that Senator David Harris?" Monica exhales with relief. Her husband. The flight attendant stiffens, color draining from her face as realization sets in. The crowd's energy flips in an instant, whispers growing into a storm. The woman she tried to humiliate is married to a United States senator. David reaches his wife's side, slipping an arm protectively around her. His gaze burns into the attendant, low and steady. "You refused my wife her seat? You threatened to throw her off this plane?" The attendant's lips part, but no words come. Passengers record every second, cameras catching her panic. The senator raises his voice just enough for the cabin to hear. "No one mistreats my wife, not here, not anywhere." A cheer rises from the passengers. Someone claps, another shouts, "Sit her down!" The energy swells. Monica finally lowers into her rightful seat, dignity intact, while her husband stands tall beside her, making sure the world and the cameras see everything. And just like that, the humiliation flips. The woman who thought she could silence a passenger now finds herself under the harshest spotlight of all. The truth, recorded live, destined for headlines before the plane even leaves the ground. The cabin feels electric now, buzzing with tension and disbelief. Phones are still up, capturing every detail. The attendant's cheeks burn red under the scrutiny of dozens of cameras, but she squares her shoulders as if to regain control. "Sir, please sit down," she mutters, voice shaking. "You're disturbing the other passengers." David Harris doesn't move. His broad frame blocks the aisle, his hand resting firmly on the seatback next to Monica. His eyes lock on the attendant, unblinking. "Disturbing? The only disturbance here is your behavior toward my wife. Do you realize who you just tried to humiliate?" The woman's lips press into a thin line. "I was just following policy." Passengers snicker. Someone calls out, "Policy against what? Letting her sit where she belongs?" The teenager recording shakes his head, whispering to his phone, "This is going viral." Monica exhales slowly, trying to steady her nerves. She touches her husband's arm. "David, it's fine. I'm seated now." But the senator shakes his head. "No, it's not fine." His voice carries, deliberate and strong. "Because this isn't just about you. This is about every passenger who's ever been treated unfairly, silenced, or humiliated when no one was watching." The cabin erupts in murmurs of agreement. A woman across the aisle nods firmly, saying, "That's right." An older man near the back adds, "We've all seen it. Some people think they can get away with anything when they're wearing a uniform." The attendant's face pales. She tugs at her collar, suddenly smaller than she had seemed minutes ago. But David isn't finished. You threatened to have her removed from this flight, he continues. On what grounds? Because she dared to stand up for herself? Because she didn't bow to your arrogance? Silence falls heavy. The weight of his words presses on every corner of the cabin. Even the crying baby 3 rows back quiets as if sensing the gravity of the moment. The captain's voice crackles overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We'll be departing shortly. But calm is impossible. The senator looks around, making eye contact with the passengers who witnessed everything. Did anyone here see my wife behave improperly? A chorus of voices rises. No! She was polite! It was the attendant! David nods once, turning back. His jaw tightens. You hear that? Every single witness disagrees with your story. The attendant stammers. I didn't mean... But David cuts her off. Save it. You didn't just disrespect my wife. You disrespected this uniform she wears in her heart. The uniform of fairness, dignity, and equality. And you've disrespected the seat she paid for, the same way any citizen of this country has the right to sit where they belong. Applause breaks out. A man in business attire claps loudly, others follow until half the cabin is cheering. Monica shifts in her seat, her face a mix of pride and humility, though her hand still trembles slightly. The senator lowers his voice, but it's sharp as steel. Here's what's going to happen. My wife is going to stay in this seat undisturbed for the rest of this flight. You are going to step back and remember that every passenger deserves respect. And when this flight lands, there will be accountability for what you tried to do here today. The attendant opens her mouth to argue, but the sight of dozens of recording phones makes her words shrivel before they escape. She turns on her heel and retreats briskly toward the galley, shoulders hunched. Passengers cheer again. Someone shouts, "That's what justice looks like!" David finally sits beside his wife. His presence fills the space, shielding her from the lingering stares. Monica exhales deeply, leaning her head against the seat. Her voice is soft but steady. You didn't have to do that. He takes her hand, squeezing gently. I always have to. Not just because you're my wife, but because people like her count on silence. Today she didn't get it. Monica smiles faintly, strength flickering back in her eyes. Around them, passengers exchange approving looks, some patting David on the shoulder as they pass. The teenager who filmed everything uploads the video with trembling hands. The title he types in bold. Flight attendant refuses black woman's seat, senator steps in. Within hours, it will spread across the internet like wildfire. But for now, on this plane, the truth already feels like victory. The flight settles into a fragile quiet, though the air still vibrates with the tension of what just happened. Monica sits upright, her hands folded tightly in her lap, but her eyes keep darting to the aisle. The other passengers sneak glances at her too, not with judgment but with a kind of silent solidarity. She feels their support, yet the sting of humiliation lingers like a shadow. David notices. He leans closer, voice low. You okay? Monica exhales slowly. I will be. I didn't expect to be on display today. Her husband's jaw clenches. She picked the wrong person to target, the wrong family. His tone is calm but iron hard, the way it gets when he's about to press forward with something unstoppable. In the galley, the flight attendant huddles with 2 colleagues. Whispers carry just enough to reach nearby passengers. She says she didn't know. She didn't realize. The excuse hangs flimsy in the air. The other attendants exchange uncomfortable glances, their professionalism fraying under the glare of dozens of witnesses. Then the captain steps out. His navy blue uniform and polished shoes carry an air of authority, but the way he looks at Monica and David tells everyone he's already pieced together the truth. He clears his throat, standing tall in the aisle. Senator Harris, Mrs. Harris, he says formally, on behalf of this airline, I sincerely apologize for what happened before boarding. The cabin quiets again. Every phone lifts instinctively, lenses pointed at the exchange. David tilts his head, scrutinizing the captain. Apology noted, he replies, his voice carrying without effort. But let's be clear, this is not about me being a senator. This is about my wife being treated with basic respect, something that should never depend on who she's married to or who's recording. The passengers erupt in applause. The sound swells through the cabin, echoing off the overhead bins, a tidal wave of affirmation that forces the captain to pause. His cheeks redden slightly, but he nods. You're absolutely right, sir, the captain admits. It shouldn't take a title or a crowd to guarantee fairness. I will personally file a report. And there will be consequences. His eyes flicker toward the galley, where the guilty attendant shrinks further into the shadows. Monica's heart beats faster. For the first time since the confrontation began, she feels the balance of power tilt. It's not just her husband protecting her anymore, it's the truth itself taking root, undeniable, unstoppable. A woman across the aisle leans forward. "Mrs. Harris, thank you for not backing down. People needed to see this." Her words carry the weight of dozens of nodding heads. A ripple of agreement moves through the passengers like a current. Monica swallows hard, touched. "I didn't do anything special," she says softly. "I just asked for my seat." "But you stood your ground," the woman replies firmly. "And that matters." The engines roar louder as the plane begins its taxi. Outside, sunlight glints off the tarmac, but inside, every eye remains fixed on Monica and David. The cameras are still rolling, but now they capture something bigger than confrontation. They capture a moment of collective awakening. David takes Monica's hand again, raising it slightly so everyone can see. For anyone watching this later, remember, respect is not optional, it's a right. And when it's denied, we don't stay silent. The cabin erupts once more, clapping, cheering, even a few whistles. The flight attendant who caused it all never reappears. Another attendant quietly takes her place, handing out water with shaky hands but sincere eyes. As the plane lifts off, Monica gazes out the window, watching the city shrink below. She feels the heaviness begin to ease, replaced by something brighter: hope, resolve, the knowledge that humiliation doesn't have the last word. David squeezes her hand gently. "This isn't over," he murmurs. She nods. "Good. It shouldn't be." And as the plane climbs higher into the sky, the moment cements itself, not just in the hearts of those on board, but soon across the nation, once the footage spreads. Justice isn't finished yet. It's only beginning. The plane has leveled off, cruising through the clouds, but the atmosphere in the cabin is far from ordinary. Passengers still whisper among themselves, scrolling through phones, posting clips, and shaking their heads at what they just witnessed. The viral storm has already begun. Monica sits quietly, though her posture has shifted. She is no longer slumped in quiet humiliation but upright, steady, her chin lifted. David, seated beside her, keeps one hand resting protectively on hers. He doesn't need to say anything. The solidarity is enough. From the row behind them, a young college student leans forward with her phone. "Mrs. Harris, Senator Harris, this video is already blowing up online, thousands of views in minutes. People are tagging news outlets, civil rights groups, everyone." Her voice trembles with both outrage and awe. Monica turns, her face calm but resolute. "Then let the world see it. Let them see how easily dignity is dismissed when someone thinks they can get away with it." David gives the young woman a grateful nod, then lowers his voice so only Monica can hear. "This won't just fade, it's going to turn into something bigger. Are you ready for that?" Monica stares at the back of the seat ahead, processing. She never asked to be a symbol, never wanted the spotlight. Yet she knows silence would be its own kind of defeat. "I'm ready," she whispers. "Not just for me, for everyone who's been through this without someone to film it." The new flight attendant, a nervous young man, approaches with water bottles. His hands tremble slightly as he sets them on the tray tables. I just want to say I'm sorry for what you went through," he murmurs. "It was wrong. It won't happen again on my watch." Monica offers a small smile. "Thank you. Apologies matter when they're backed by action. Please remember that." The attendant nods earnestly and moves down the aisle. Passengers watch the exchange, sensing the tide of accountability washing over the crew. A businessman across the aisle clears his throat. "Senator, with all due respect, the way you handled that, calm, steady, you set an example. People will remember this." David acknowledges the words but keeps the focus where it belongs. "My wife set the example. I just made sure her voice wasn't drowned out." His gaze sweeps the cabin, making sure everyone hears it. Phones are still lifted. Hashtags are already trending. #respect onboard. #stand with Monica. The ripple is becoming a wave, one that neither the airline nor the attendant can contain. Monica finally allows herself a deep breath, the tightness in her chest loosening. She looks at David, eyes glistening. "Do you think this will change anything?" David studies her face, then nods slowly. "Maybe not the whole world overnight, but for the people who see it, who think twice before looking down on someone, they'll remember." Change begins one crack at a time. The captain returns, pausing mid-aisle. He looks tired now, weighed down by the knowledge that this moment will follow him, his airline, and his crew for a long time. He addresses Monica directly. "Mrs. Harris, we'll be issuing a formal apology as soon as we land. You'll be contacted by corporate leadership. I know that won't erase the humiliation, but I assure you this isn't being brushed aside." Monica meets his eyes. "See that it isn't, because the cameras won't let you." Her tone is firm but even, carrying the weight of every person who's ever been dismissed. The captain nods, chastened, and retreats. The hum of the engines fills the silence, but the silence feels different now, charged, purposeful. Monica looks out the window again, the clouds glowing orange in the late sun. She whispers almost to herself, "Sometimes the fight finds you when you least expect it." David hears her and squeezes her hand once more. "And sometimes when it does, you rise." The passengers seem to understand that too. No one looks away anymore. Every gaze carries respect, solidarity, even admiration. The moment has transformed from a scene of cruelty into a living lesson in dignity and strength. And as the plane speeds toward its destination, so too does the story. By the time they land, Monica Harris will no longer just be a passenger. She will be a name, a voice, a symbol, and the world will be waiting to hear her speak. The plane continues its steady course, but inside the cabin, every heartbeat feels louder than the hum of the engines. The viral clips have already spread far beyond the rows of passengers, but Monica doesn't know just how far. She only feels the weight of every eye still glancing her way, the subtle mix of admiration and outrage that lingers in the recycled air. David scrolls through his phone, and the headlines are already there. Senator's wife humiliated on flight. Airline in crisis after discrimination allegations. Social media platforms are exploding with reposts, dueling opinions, and calls for accountability. He tilts the screen so Monica can see. She exhales, pressing her palm against her chest. "It's already everywhere." David nods. "That's the world we live in. One moment of cruelty, one careless decision. It's all it takes to shine a light on what so many endure." A teenager from 2 rows back leans forward. His voice shakes, but it carries. "Mrs. Harris, my mom went through something like that last year at a grocery store. They made her feel less than human. Watching you hold yourself tall, it gives me hope." Monica turns in her seat, her expression softening. "What happened to your mom matters. What happens to you matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." The boy smiles nervously, and the passengers nearby murmur their agreement. This flight has become more than a journey. It has become a gathering of voices, each finding strength in what has unfolded. Meanwhile, the young flight attendant returns, this time with a small notepad. His words tumble out quickly, almost in a rush. "I wrote down what I saw, everything, in case anyone tries to twist it later. I'll stand by you." David looks him straight in the eye. "That's courage, thank you." Monica rests a hand on the attendant's arm for a moment, grounding him. "Keep that. It may be more important than you know." The tension is not gone. It lingers like a storm cloud, but something else is present now. Resolve. Passengers no longer whisper with only fear or anger. They speak with purpose, plans to share, to act, to demand accountability. The air feels electric with the sense that what began as humiliation has transformed into a rallying point. As the captain's voice breaks through the intercom, announcing their descent, the cabin hushes. Every ear listens, waiting for words that might attempt to soothe or distract. But the announcement is mechanical, stripped of anything human. The silence that follows is heavier than before. Monica straightens her blouse, adjusts her seatbelt, and leans slightly toward David. "When we land, they'll try to spin it. They'll try to bury it. But this time, I won't let them." David squeezes her hand. "You won't be alone." The wheels touch down with a jolt, but it is the silence that follows. No applause, no chatter, that speaks louder. Everyone is bracing for what comes next. As the plane taxis to the gate, passengers start pulling out phones again, narrating live updates. Some point cameras openly at the flight crew, daring them to hide behind policy. Others angle toward Monica, whose quiet dignity has made her the center of a story that refuses to be silenced. The seatbelt sign dings, and people rise. But no one rushes to leave. Instead, they wait, letting Monica and David move first. It is not obligation, it is respect. As they step into the aisle, the murmurs ripple. "We're with you. Stay strong. Thank you for standing tall." Words that are not just for Monica, but for everyone who has ever felt unseen, unheard, unvalued. When they step onto the jet bridge, the first flashes of cameras greet them. Reporters have already gathered, tipped off by the flood of social media posts. Microphones stretch forward, voices calling out questions. "Mrs. Harris, how do you respond?" "Senator, will you press charges?" "What message do you want to send tonight?" Monica pauses, breathes deep, and lifts her chin. Her voice, calm yet steady, cuts through the chaos. No one deserves to be treated as less. Not here, not anywhere. This isn't just about me. This is about dignity, and dignity isn't negotiable. The crowd stills for a beat, letting her words sink in. Cameras flash again, brighter now, as though trying to capture not just her image, but the force of her presence. David places his arm gently around her shoulders, guiding her forward. They will leave the airport tonight not just as passengers, but as a reminder of what happens when silence is broken and truth is witnessed. And somewhere in the back of that plane, in the hearts of those who saw it unfold, a seed has been planted, a seed of courage, of defiance, of change. Because sometimes justice doesn't wait for courtrooms or laws. Sometimes justice begins in the aisle of a crowded plane, with a woman who refused to be diminished and a world that refused to look away. The cameras keep flashing as Monica and David step out of the jet bridge into the terminal. Reporters jostle for position, shouting questions, while travelers stop mid-stride to pull out phones and record. The humiliation that began inside the cabin has now exploded into a full-scale spectacle. Monica's hands tremble, but she refuses to let the fear show. She takes another breath, reminding herself that this is bigger than her comfort. She adjusts her jacket, straightens her back, and walks as though the terminal floor is a stage where truth is finally being spoken aloud. "Mrs. Harris, did the airline apologize yet?" "Senator Harris, will you demand the flight attendant be fired?" Was this racially motivated? David raises a hand, not to silence but to control the chaos. His voice, seasoned from years in public life, carries over the clamor. "What happened today is unacceptable. My wife was singled out and disrespected, not because of anything she did, but because of who she is. This isn't just about an airline's failure, it's about a deeper sickness we must all confront." The words land hard, amplified by every camera and every live stream. People watching from around the country feel their stomachs tighten. They've seen headlines before, but to hear it directly from a senator, to watch his wife standing tall beside him, it hits differently. Behind them, other passengers file into the terminal. Some shake their heads in disgust at the airline staff, others whisper encouragement to Monica. One woman, her voice breaking, says, "Thank you for speaking up. Too many of us stay silent." The young flight attendant from earlier lingers nearby, notebook clutched against his chest. When the reporters scatter momentarily to chase after the airline's PR spokesperson, he steps forward. "Mrs. Harris, I'll testify. If anyone tries to twist the story, I'll tell them exactly what I saw. You don't deserve this." Monica places her hand on his shoulder. "You're brave, and you remind me, change doesn't come from silence. Thank you." The boy nods quickly, eyes glassy with nervous resolve. By now, social media is on fire. Hashtags trend across platforms. #Stand with Monica, #Dignity, on board, #accountability. In the air. Clips of the confrontation replay endlessly, paired with commentary from activists, politicians, and ordinary people who see their own struggles mirrored in hers. The airline scrambles. A hastily written press release appears online. "We are reviewing the incident. We do not condone discrimination of any kind." But the statement is flat, bloodless, and people can sense it. Commenters flood the airline's posts with outrage. Some call for boycotts. Others demand resignations. Back at the terminal, David's phone buzzes non-stop. Messages from colleagues, aides, and even rivals flood in. Some offer support. Others angle to seize the political moment. But David focuses on one thing: protecting Monica. He leans close to her ear, lowering his voice. "They're going to push back hard. The airline, the unions, even people who don't want to see change. But you're not alone. I'll fight with you every step." Monica nods, though her eyes glisten. "I'm not afraid of the fight, David. I'm afraid that if we don't fight, nothing changes." They move through the crowd, cameras chasing them like a storm. Outside the terminal, police cruisers idle at the curb, lights flashing. Some officers stand stiffly, watching. Their presence is not threatening, but Monica feels the weight of their eyes. She knows how quickly respect can shift to suspicion, how authority can be used to silence instead of protect. A voice calls out from behind the cameras. It's the teenager from the plane, his phone still in his hand. "Mrs. Harris, people are watching you right now. They're saying you gave them courage." Monica stops, turning toward him. For a moment, everything quiets. The terminal noise fades, the reporters lower their microphones, and all that remains is a young voice cutting through the chaos. She lifts her chin, speaking not just to him, but to the invisible millions watching through their screens. "If my standing here tonight makes even one person feel less alone, then it was worth it. We can't control how others treat us, but we can decide whether we stay silent. I won't be silent. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." The crowd erupts, cheers, applause, even tears. Some raise fists in solidarity, others simply nod with the quiet relief of knowing someone has finally said what needed to be said. Monica and David walk out into the night hand in hand, surrounded by cameras but held up by something greater than publicity. They carry the weight of the moment, but also its power. And though the airline may try to spin, though critics may try to dismiss, the truth has already taken root. It's in the voices of the passengers who witnessed, the clips replayed endlessly online, the boy who promised to testify, and the countless others who see themselves reflected in Monica's stand. Justice may not come all at once, but tonight a spark has been lit, and sparks, when fanned by courage, have the power to ignite movements that no one can put out. The night air outside the terminal is heavy with flashing lights, camera bulbs, and the low rumble of news vans pulling up to the curb. Monica and David step onto the sidewalk, instantly swarmed by reporters. The scene has spilled far beyond a passenger dispute. This is now a national story unfolding in real time. "Senator Harris, will you demand legislation for airline accountability?" "Mrs. Harris, what message do you have for young women watching you tonight? Do you believe this was racially motivated discrimination?" Each question cuts through the noise, but Monica doesn't rush. She pauses, breathes, and turns toward the cameras. Her voice is calm, yet unshakable. "This isn't just about me. It's about every passenger who's ever been told they don't belong. Tonight, I was disrespected because of the color of my skin. That should never happen on any plane, in any school, in any workplace, in any part of this country. And yet, it does. We have to change that." The crowd goes silent for a beat, then explodes in applause. Some strangers weep openly, their emotions raw. Others chant her name, voices carrying down the row of parked cars. Hashtags multiply online, news anchors cut live to the scene, and Monica's face becomes the symbol of a much bigger conversation. Inside one of the vans, a producer whispers urgently to her anchor, "This clip's going viral already. Numbers are spiking in real time." Meanwhile, airline executives gather in a boardroom hundreds of miles away, glued to a wall of screens. Their spokesperson's weak statement earlier has only fueled the fire. One executive slams his palm on the table. "We need to contain this. If Senator Harris pushes legislation, we'll have hearings on Capitol Hill. This isn't just PR anymore, it's survival." But no statement can stop the avalanche. Social media is flooded with passengers' first-hand accounts. Some post videos showing the flight attendants' dismissive tone. Others describe the shock they felt as Monica was denied her seat. The airline's own staff chime in anonymously, admitting this isn't the first time complaints have been ignored. The story has grown legs, stretching beyond one flight into a spotlight on systemic issues. Back outside, David places a protective arm around Monica as they approach their waiting car. But the reporters push closer, sensing history being made. "Senator Harris, will you use your position to call for hearings?" David glances at his wife. She gives a subtle nod. He turns back, his voice resonant. "Yes. Tomorrow I will introduce a measure demanding accountability from every major airline. This can't be dismissed as an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern, and patterns must be confronted." The words ripple instantly across the networks. Analysts cut in mid-broadcast to react. If Senator Harris moves forward, this could reshape airline policies nationwide, one says. Another adds, Monica Harris may have just become the face of a civil rights push in aviation. The flight attendant responsible for the incident sits in a back office at the airport, trembling. He replays the moment over and over. The refusal, the tone, the smirk he thought was harmless. Now, with the world watching, it feels monstrous. His supervisor warns him, "The union will back you legally, but public opinion, you're on your own." While the airline scrambles, Monica sits quietly in the back of the car, David's hand clasped over hers. She gazes out the window at the terminal lights, her reflection faint in the glass. "I never asked for this," she whispers. David squeezes her hand. "History never asks, it just arrives, and you rose to it." Tears well in her eyes, but she lets them fall. They aren't tears of weakness. They are the weight of centuries pressing down and the fragile hope of something breaking open. Later that night, across living rooms in America, families talk about Monica. Mothers tell their daughters, "You see, speak up." Fathers shake their heads and mutter, "About time someone stood tall." And children, eyes wide, see a woman who looks like them stand against a system designed to silence her. By dawn, the headlines are everywhere. Senator's wife denied seat sparks national outcry. Airline discrimination scandal hits Capitol Hill. Monica Harris, passenger or pioneer? Airline stock dips sharply at market open. Talk radio buzzes non-stop, divided between outrage and denial. But no matter which side callers take, no one can ignore it anymore. In her hotel room, Monica scrolls through messages from strangers. One in particular makes her pause. "My grandmother was told to give up her bus seat in the 1960s. She never forgot the shame. Tonight, watching you, I felt that wound begin to heal." Monica places the phone on the nightstand, closes her eyes, and exhales. The fight is far from over, but the moment has already carved its mark in history. What began as humiliation on an airplane has transformed into a movement impossible to ground. The morning sun rises over Washington, casting a golden glow on the Capitol dome. Already, reporters crowd the marble steps, microphones raised, cameras fixed, waiting for Senator David Harris. Overnight, Monica's story has spiraled into a national storm. Now, every lens is trained on the man who promised accountability. David walks out of his office flanked by aides, Monica at his side. Her presence sends an unspoken message. This fight is not his alone. The questions erupt like gunfire. "Senator Harris, when will you introduce the measure?" "Monica, what changes do you hope to see in airline policies?" "Do you believe this incident reflects a broader civil rights crisis?" David lifts his hand and the crowd hushes. His voice carries across the steps. "Today, I will file legislation requiring stricter oversight of airlines regarding discrimination complaints. But let me be clear, this is bigger than air travel. This is about dignity. No passenger, no citizen should face humiliation because of who they are. This ends here." Applause breaks out, not just from supporters but from bystanders who gathered after watching the viral video. Monica steps forward, her words deliberate. "I was told I didn't belong in a seat I had paid for, on a plane I had every right to board. What happened to me is not rare, but for once, cameras were rolling. We must fight for those whose humiliation never makes the news." Inside the Capitol, the hearing room fills with energy. Airline executives sit stiffly at the long witness table, faces pale under the lights. Across from them, senators shuffle papers, readying their questions. The tension is palpable. This is no routine oversight meeting. This is a reckoning. The committee chair clears his throat. "We are here because one passenger's treatment has sparked outrage nationwide. Mrs. Harris, would you please recount the events?" Monica rises, steady despite the weight of the moment. Her voice doesn't waver as she describes the refusal, the dismissive smirk, the sense of being invisible. As she speaks, the footage plays on a large screen. The flight attendant shaking his head, blocking her from sitting, then the eruption when David arrived. The silence in the chamber is absolute. When the video ends, Monica looks directly at the executives. "You call us valued customers, but in that moment I was treated as less than human. How many others have you silenced? How many more will it take before you change?" The executives exchange nervous glances. One clears his throat. "We deeply regret what occurred, and we are reviewing—" A senator cuts him off. "Reviewing isn't enough. How many discrimination complaints have been filed in the past 5 years?" The executive hesitates. "Over 4,000. Gasps ripple through the room. Headlines practically write themselves. Reporters outside scramble to relay the number. 4,000 complaints, one anchor announces live, and only a fraction investigated. This is bigger than one incident. This is systemic. Meanwhile, social media surges with fury. Passengers share stories of being ignored, profiled, belittled. Hashtags trend globally, and activists seize the momentum to demand broader reforms. What began in an airplane aisle has become a national referendum on respect and justice. Back inside, David leans forward, his tone sharp. 4,000 complaints, 4,000 human beings. And your solution is another review? Let me remind you, Americans do not board planes to be demeaned. They board to travel safely. If you cannot guarantee that, we will legislate until you can. The executives squirm, realizing the tide is unstoppable. Monica listens, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She never wanted this spotlight, but now that it has found her, she refuses to let it dim. She remembers the humiliation in that narrow aisle, the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders, and she vows silently, never again, not for her, not for anyone. As the hearing concludes, the committee chair speaks firmly. This is not the end. This is the beginning of accountability. When David and Monica step outside, the steps are packed with supporters chanting their names. Signs wave, respect all passengers, dignity in the skies, Monica Harris for justice. One young woman pushes through the crowd, tears streaming. Mrs. Harris, because of you, I feel seen. Thank you. Monica embraces her without hesitation. Cameras flash, capturing the moment. Later, that image will spread across front pages worldwide, a symbol of resilience, of a passenger who refused to be silenced. That night, as Monica sits by the hotel window, watching the city lights glitter below, David places a hand on her shoulder. You changed something today, he whispers. She shakes her head softly. We changed it. Together. And it's only the start. The city hums outside, restless and alive. History has been set in motion, and neither of them intends to stop it. The fallout begins before dawn. By the time Monica wakes up, the hotel phone is ringing off the hook. Calls from journalists, messages from old friends, emails from advocacy groups begging her to speak at rallies. The video of her testimony, paired with the shocking number of discrimination complaints, has ignited a fire that refuses to fade. David scrolls through his phone, reading aloud headlines from across the country. Airline executives grilled over discrimination. Senator's wife speaks truth to power. 4,000 complaints, zero accountability. Each one adds fuel to the storm. But the most surprising headline of all flashes across a national morning show. Major airlines face boycott threat over discrimination. Monica turns toward the screen where anchors debate the scandal. Protesters are already outside airports, holding signs and chanting, demanding justice. Passengers are canceling flights in solidarity, costing the companies millions. This isn't just about one incident anymore, the anchor says. This is about an industry under siege. David sets his phone down. The pressure is working, but we need to keep control of the narrative. If they twist it, they'll try to make it about politics, not people. Monica nods, her determination firm. Then we make it about the people. All of them. Later that morning, they arrive at the Senate office again, greeted not by silence but by a swelling crowd. Supporters chant her name. Camera crews scramble for shots. One protester shouts, "We stand with you, Monica!" Another waves a giant poster showing her embracing the young woman outside the hearing yesterday. Inside, Monica and David meet with fellow lawmakers. Allies across party lines pledge support for swift legislation. You have momentum, one senator says. We can pass this if we move fast. But others resist. Airlines donate millions, another warns quietly. They'll fight with everything they have. David answers without hesitation. Let them fight. We'll fight harder. As the day unfolds, Monica finds herself drawn into interviews she never imagined giving. She sits across from a network anchor, lights blazing, the world watching. Mrs. Harris, the anchor begins, some say your experience struck a nerve because of who your husband is. What do you say to those who think this wouldn't matter if you weren't married to a senator? Monica leans forward, her gaze unwavering. I was humiliated as a black woman, not as a senator's wife. That humiliation happens to thousands who don't have cameras or platforms. If my marriage gave me visibility, then I owe it to them to use it. This fight is for all who've been silenced. The clip explodes online, shared millions of times. Viewers call her courageous. Civil rights leaders praise her clarity. Her words resonate because they cut through politics and speak to lived truth. Meanwhile, the airline executives scramble. Emergency meetings drag into the night. Public relations firms draft apologies that ring hollow. None of it can stop the bleeding. Stock prices dip. Rival companies issue statements promising reforms, terrified of being next. By evening, protests swell nationwide. Airports from New York to Los Angeles echo with chants. Television screens are filled with images of ordinary passengers linking arms, chanting Monica's name, demanding legislation. That night, Monica and David sit together in their quiet hotel suite, exhaustion etched on their faces. Yet beneath the fatigue lies something else. Resolve. David breaks the silence. They'll come after us harder tomorrow. Lobbyists, smear campaigns, pressure. Are you ready for that? Monica looks out the window at the Capitol glowing in the distance. They've already taken my dignity once. I won't let them take it again. I'm ready. The following morning, the front page of nearly every major newspaper carries the same headline: Monica Harris sparks national movement. And across the country, millions who had once felt powerless now feel seen. They aren't just passengers anymore. They are voices rising together. The movement has begun, and there is no turning back. The courtroom is packed, every bench filled, every aisle crowded, cameras clustered outside like vultures circling. The world wants to see if the airline industry can finally be held accountable. Monica walks in with David at her side. She isn't just a witness now, she's the face of a movement. Reporters shout questions, but her gaze is steady, her hands calm. She doesn't need to answer them yet. The truth will speak for itself. At the front, attorneys shuffle papers. The airline's legal team looks sharp, expensive, but nervous. Across from them, the Justice Department has joined the case, supported by civil rights organizations. This isn't just one woman versus a corporation anymore. It's the people versus a system. When the judge enters, the room falls silent. He surveys the courtroom, the tension heavy. This case has drawn national attention, he says. Let us proceed with clarity and fairness. The airline's attorney opens with rehearsed lines. This was an isolated incident, a misunderstanding. Our client regrets the unfortunate experience but denies systemic wrongdoing. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Disbelief, anger. David clenches his jaw, but Monica places a hand on his arm. She knows their turn will come. Then the prosecution begins. One by one, witnesses are called. A young woman recounts being denied boarding for vague reasons. An elderly man describes humiliation when staff accused him of lying about his ticket. A mother breaks down, saying her child asked, "Why don't they like us?" Each story is a cut, a wound revealed under harsh light. The courtroom absorbs it like oxygen fueling fire. Finally, Monica takes the stand. The room leans forward, every ear tuned. She describes the humiliation in detail, the sneer, the refusal, the sting of being treated as less than human. It wasn't just a seat, she says. It was dignity stolen in front of strangers. The airline's attorney tries to rattle her. Mrs. Harris, isn't it true that this only gained attention because your husband is a senator? Her voice doesn't waver. Yes, and that's exactly why I'm here. Because thousands who don't have senators for husbands endure the same treatment without anyone listening. I refuse to let them remain invisible. The jury watches her with rapt attention. Some nod. Even the judge leans forward slightly, as if moved. Midway through testimony, something unexpected happens. The courtroom doors swing open and a group of airline employees enter. Pilots, attendants, mechanics. They wear their uniforms, holding signs of support. They sit quietly in the back, but their presence speaks volumes. Even insiders know the truth. The defense stumbles, caught off guard. Their narrative of isolated incident crumbles in real time. Then comes the turning point. Prosecutors present the internal documents uncovered through subpoenas. Memos where executives dismissed discrimination complaints as overblown. Emails instructing staff to manage optics rather than fix problems. Numbers that show thousands of ignored cases. Gasps fill the room. The airline's attorney pales. The damage is undeniable. Reporters scribble furiously. The story writes itself. Not one woman's grievance, but a pattern of corruption exposed. By the afternoon recess, the atmosphere has shifted. Protesters outside cheer louder. Social media explodes with clips. Hashtags trend worldwide. #justice. In the air and #seat for all. During a quiet moment, Monica steps outside for air. Supporters surround her, offering hugs, thanks, encouragement. One teenager hands her a note. "Because of you, I'm not afraid to fly anymore." She presses the note to her heart. This is why she fights. When court resumes, the judge issues a stern warning to the defense. The evidence presented paints a troubling picture. "Counsel, I advise you to consider your position carefully." The airline's team huddles, panic etched on their faces. Settlement whispers fly, but Monica shakes her head when asked privately, No, she insists. This isn't about money, it's about change. The day ends with the courtroom buzzing, the nation holding its breath. Tomorrow will bring closing arguments. Tomorrow the verdict will near. But tonight, as Monica leaves hand in hand with David, she feels the shift deep in her soul. This is bigger than her, bigger than them both. It's history in the making. The next morning, the courthouse is even more crowded. News vans line the block, their antennas stabbing the sky. Protesters wave signs, chanting in unison. Inside, the air hums with expectation. The closing arguments are about to begin. Monica sits near the front, her hands folded tightly in her lap. David leans close, whispering, "Whatever happens today, you've already won in the hearts of millions." She nods but keeps her eyes fixed on the judge's bench. She knows the system has disappointed people before. This time, it cannot. The airline's attorney rises first. He adjusts his expensive tie, clears his throat, and begins with a rehearsed calm. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you've witnessed is unfortunate but not representative. My client acknowledges mistakes, but those mistakes do not amount to systemic discrimination. We ask you to weigh facts over emotion." His words hang in the air, polished yet hollow. A few jurors glance at him with skepticism. Others glance at Monica. When it's the prosecution's turn, the room shifts. The lead prosecutor steps forward with quiet intensity. This is not about a single flight. This is about dignity stolen, lives humiliated, and voices silenced. You have seen the emails. You have seen the patterns. This corporation did not stumble. It chose profit over people. He turns toward Monica, his hand lifting slightly. And when Monica Harris spoke out, she did not only speak for herself. She spoke for every passenger dismissed as invisible, every complaint buried in a drawer. She spoke for the truth. The jury watches closely. One woman wipes her eyes. Another leans forward, chin resting on her hand, listening like the words are oxygen. Then the prosecutor's voice hardens. "And to those who would say this only matters because her husband is a senator, I say this: the law is supposed to protect everyone equally. If it takes a senator's wife to force change, then what happens to the rest of us? That is why you must deliver justice." The room erupts in applause before the judge gavels it down. Order returns, but the impact remains. After arguments, the jury files out to deliberate. The courtroom empties into the hallway where reporters swarm. Microphones chase Monica, cameras flash, but she refuses to give sound bites. "I'll wait for the verdict," she says simply. "This isn't about me, it's about justice." Hours drag on. Supporters gather outside, their chants echoing off the stone walls. Children hold signs with Monica's picture. Veterans stand shoulder to shoulder with activists. For once, the crowd is united. Different races, different ages, all demanding fairness. Finally, as evening sets in, word spreads. The jury has reached a decision. The courtroom fills once more. Tension crackles like static. Monica squeezes David's hand so tightly her knuckles pale. The judge returns. The foreperson stands, paper trembling slightly in her grip. "We, the jury, find in favor of the plaintiff. We hold the airline liable for systemic discrimination, negligence, and violation of civil rights." The words slam through the courtroom like thunder. Gasps, cheers, and tears collide into a storm of emotion. Monica closes her eyes, tears streaking her cheeks, not from relief alone, but from vindication, for herself, for strangers she'll never meet, for everyone who felt unseen. The judge continues. "Furthermore, we order immediate reforms to training, accountability measures, and oversight. Compensation is awarded not only to the plaintiff, but to all passengers in the class action suit. It's more than anyone dared hope. The system, for once, didn't fail." Reporters scramble outside to broadcast the verdict live. The nation erupts online. Hashtags soar, headlines flash, talk shows prepare their panels. But for Monica, it's quieter. She looks around at the faces in the courtroom, the employees who showed up in solidarity, the strangers who believed in her. David wraps his arm around her. "You did it," he whispers. She shakes her head gently. "We did it. All of us." As they leave the courthouse, the crowd outside roars. People chant her name, but she doesn't bask in it. Instead, she lifts the teenager's note from her pocket, the one that said, "Because of you, I'm not afraid to fly anymore." She holds it high so the crowd can see. "This is why we fight," she says, her voice amplified not by microphones, but by conviction. And in that moment, the chants grow louder, Not just for Monica, but for the idea she represents. That dignity cannot be denied, and justice, when demanded fiercely enough, will rise. The night sky glows with camera flashes, the courthouse steps transformed into a symbol of change. For the first time in years, Monica Harris feels truly free. The verdict reverberates far beyond the courthouse. Within hours, every major network carries the story. Anchors frame it as a landmark case. Social media explodes with clips of the moment the foreperson read the decision, and hashtags tied to Monica's name trend globally. At the Harris home, the phones ring non-stop. Calls from civil rights groups, law professors, and even ordinary citizens pour in. Messages from strangers flood Monica's inbox, thanking her for standing tall. Yet, amid the whirlwind, Monica sits quietly at the kitchen table, a mug of tea cooling in her hands. David joins her, loosening his tie after a day of back-to-back press conferences. "You know you've just changed the entire airline industry, right?" he says, half in awe, half in disbelief. Monica smiles faintly. One verdict doesn't change the world, but maybe it forces them to listen. He leans down, kissing her forehead. That's more than most people ever achieve. The next morning, newspapers plaster her image across their front pages. Senator's wife sparks industry reform. Some headlines celebrate her courage, others downplay it by emphasizing her husband's political clout. Monica notices, but she refuses to let the narrative diminish her role. She knows what she lived, what she endured, and why she fought. Meanwhile, at the airline's headquarters, panic sets in. Executives gather in a sterile boardroom, their voices sharp and overlapping. "Our stock is tanking," one shouts. "We need damage control now." Another suggests a press release. A third pushes for an immediate apology tour, but the CEO slams his fist on the table. "No spin will fix this. People don't trust us anymore." His tone drips with frustration. "We have to clean house. The public wants accountability, not excuses." It's too late. Television screens in the room show live coverage of protests outside airports across the country. Passengers demand boycotts. Employees wear pins with Monica's face, refusing to clock in until reforms are guaranteed. For the first time, the corporation realizes this isn't a storm they can wait out. It's a reckoning. Back in their community, Monica and David attend a town hall meeting. Hundreds pack into a high school gymnasium. The atmosphere is electric, neighbors cheering as Monica enters. She takes the stage, her voice trembling slightly at first, but growing stronger with each word. "I never wanted to be the center of this story," she begins. "I just wanted to sit in the seat I paid for. But when dignity is denied, when humanity is mocked, we cannot stay silent. Justice is not a gift, it is a right." The audience rises to its feet. The applause is thunderous. Monica feels the weight of their belief in her, and for the first time since the incident on that plane, she feels not just vindicated, but empowered. Later that week, a televised interview cements her role as a new voice for justice. The journalist asks, "Mrs. Harris, do you see yourself as an activist now?" She pauses. "I see myself as someone who refused to be silent. If that makes me an activist, then so be it. But I hope one day, standing up for fairness won't require a label. It'll just be what everyone does." Behind the scenes, lawmakers begin drafting legislation inspired by her case. Proposals call for stricter oversight of airlines, stronger protections for passengers, and harsher penalties for discrimination. Monica watches the news reports with mixed emotions, grateful for the momentum but mindful of how easily promises can fade once cameras turn away. In private, David encourages her to keep speaking out. "The world is listening, Monica. Don't let them turn the page too quickly." She nods, already aware that the fight is bigger than her, but she also feels a tug toward normalcy, toward quiet mornings, toward time with family, toward peace. Balancing both feels impossible. One evening, she takes a solitary walk, replaying everything in her mind. The humiliation on the plane, the courtroom battles, the verdict that shook the industry, and now the burden of being a symbol. She whispers to herself, "Am I strong enough to keep carrying this?" As if in answer, a young woman approaches. Nervous, clutching her phone, she says, "Mrs. Harris, I just wanted to thank you. Because of what you did, I finally reported the way my supervisor treated me. I didn't think anyone would listen, but now I know I can't give up." Tears sting Monica's eyes. She hugs the woman tightly. In that embrace, she finds her answer. She doesn't have to carry it all alone. Every voice that rises because of hers makes the weight a little lighter. When she returns home, David is waiting. She tells him about the encounter, and he smiles knowingly. "That's why you keep going," he says. Monica exhales, resolve settling into her bones. The fight is far from over, but the path is clear. She will not retreat, not now, not ever. Because one act of resistance on an airplane had grown into something much larger, a movement that demanded respect, dignity, and equality. And Monica Harris, once just a passenger denied a seat, had become its unwilling but unwavering leader. The summons comes swiftly. A thick envelope arrives at the Harris residence, marked with the official seal of the United States Congress. Monica holds it in her hands, her pulse racing. She knows what it means before she even opens it. Inside, an official letter requests her presence at a congressional hearing on discrimination within the airline industry. David reads over her shoulder, nodding gravely. This is it, they're taking it seriously. Monica sets the letter down on the dining table. I never imagined this would end in Washington. I just wanted to get to my seat. Her voice wavers, but behind it is steel. She knows she can't step back now. Too many people are watching. In the days that follow, preparation consumes her. Legal advisors, advocacy groups, and even civil rights veterans reach out to help her craft her testimony. They gather statistics, cite precedents, and compile stories from countless others who suffered similar indignities but lacked her platform to be heard. When the morning of the hearing arrives, Monica feels the weight of millions on her shoulders. Cameras crowd the steps of the Capitol. Journalists jostle for position, their microphones thrust toward her as she steps out of the car. Mrs. Harris, how do you feel today? Do you think this will change anything? What do you plan to say to Congress? Monica keeps her composure, replying simply, I plan to tell the truth. Inside, the chamber buzzes with tension. Lawmakers shuffle papers, aides whisper hurriedly in their ears. Rows of spectators, activists, and reporters fill the gallery. At the center of it all, Monica takes her seat at the witness table, a small placard with her name in front of her. David sits behind her, offering silent support. The chairman gavels the hearing into order. Mrs. Harris, thank you for being here today. Please proceed with your opening statement. Monica adjusts the microphone. Her voice, steady but firm, cuts through the silence. Members of Congress, my name is Monica Harris. I am here not just for myself, but for every passenger who has ever been denied dignity in the skies. On that day, when a flight attendant refused to let me sit in the seat I had purchased, I was humiliated, degraded, and treated as less than human. That moment was not isolated. It is part of a pattern, and that pattern must end. The room falls silent. Lawmakers lean forward, pens frozen in midair. She continues, recounting the ordeal in detail. She describes the jeers of onlookers, the sting of injustice, and the painful realization that her worth was judged by her skin color rather than her humanity. She recalls the trial, the verdict, and the movement that exploded afterward. Each word drips with authenticity. At one point, her voice cracks. I was not just fighting for myself. I was fighting for every young girl who will one day board a plane and deserve to feel safe, respected, and seen. Applause erupts from the gallery, quickly hushed by the chairman's gavel. The questioning begins. Some lawmakers are sympathetic, praising her bravery and pledging reform. Others are skeptical, asking whether the incident was truly systemic or just the fault of one employee. Monica answers each with poise, backing her words with data and stories collected from other passengers. When one congressman attempts to minimize her ordeal, suggesting, perhaps this was just an unfortunate misunderstanding, Monica fixes him with a calm but piercing stare. A misunderstanding does not explain decades of complaints filed, voices ignored, and lives disrupted. This is not isolated. It is institutional, and we all know it. Her words hang heavy in the chamber. Cameras catch the shift in expressions, the realization that dismissing her is no longer an option. Hours later, when the hearing adjourns, Monica emerges into a storm of flashbulbs. Protesters chant her name outside, waving signs that read, Justice at 30,000 feet and dignity is not optional. David guides her through the crowd, but she pauses, lifting her hand in a small wave. A young girl at the barricade, no older than 12, shouts, Thank you, Mrs. Harris! Tears prick Monica's eyes. She knows the fight is worth every ounce of exhaustion. That evening, news networks replay her testimony on a loop. Commentators call it historic, a turning point, and a demand that cannot be ignored. Social media floods with clips of her sharp responses and powerful declarations. Even her detractors are forced to admit she commanded the room. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, lawmakers begin drafting what will become known as the Passenger Dignity Act. It promises sweeping reforms, stricter oversight, mandatory anti-discrimination training, and penalties for airlines that tolerate bias. At home, Monica sits with David on the couch, the glow of the television washing over them. Exhaustion clings to her, but beneath it, a deep satisfaction hums. David squeezes her hand. "You were incredible today. You didn't just testify, you made history." Monica exhales slowly, leaning into him. "I didn't do it alone. Every person who stood up, every story shared, it all carried me through." Outside, the city is alive with energy, protesters marching with renewed hope. For the first time, real change feels within reach. And Monica Harris, once just a passenger denied a seat, now stands as the voice of millions demanding justice in the skies. The ripple effect of Monica's testimony spreads faster than anyone expected. Within days, airline executives are summoned before Congress to answer for decades of unchecked complaints. The hearing room is packed wall to wall. Cameras line the back, journalists whisper hurried updates into their microphones, and protesters outside chant slogans that echo through the marble halls. Monica and David sit quietly in the gallery. She doesn't speak this time, but her presence is a reminder to the executives that the world is watching. The airline CEO, flanked by attorneys and public relations advisors, takes the hot seat. His tie is too tight, his face flushed. He begins with rehearsed politeness. "We take all allegations seriously and strive to provide excellent service to every customer." The chairman interrupts. "Save the script, Mr. Whitman. The question is why passengers like Mrs. Harris and countless others continue to experience discrimination on your planes. Why has nothing changed?" The CEO stammers. He blames isolated incidents, claiming they don't reflect company values. But then lawmakers pull out files, thousands of pages of complaints filed over decades. Names, dates, details, ignored letters, lawsuits quietly settled. His excuses crumble. C-SPAN cameras capture every moment. Viewers across the nation shake their heads in disbelief. Hashtags trend on Twitter. Had ground the excuses and hashed justice in the skies. Clips of the CEO fumbling for words flood TikTok and Instagram, mocked by millions. Monica watches it all with a mix of anger and quiet triumph. She remembers the humiliation she felt on that flight, the laughter of strangers, the dismissive look of the flight attendant. Now that same arrogance is being dismantled under bright lights for the entire country to see. David leans toward her. They're squirming because they know they've been caught. But the moment that electrifies the room comes when a senator reads a prepared statement. "Mr. Whitman, effective immediately, the Department of Transportation will begin a full investigation into discriminatory practices within your airline. Fines will be levied and new regulations will follow." This hearing is not the end. It's the beginning of accountability. The gallery erupts into applause, despite attempts to maintain order. Monica feels her chest tighten, not with fear, but with relief. For the first time, real consequences are in motion. Outside, the streets around Capitol Hill transform into a festival of resistance. Protesters beat drums, wave banners, and chant Monica's name. Civil rights groups organize teach-ins and rallies, citing her case as proof that speaking out works. Teenagers create viral videos reenacting her testimony. Churches and community centers across the country host screenings of the hearing footage, followed by discussions about justice and equality. That night, back at the Harris home, Monica's phone buzzes nonstop. Messages flood in. Old classmates, colleagues, strangers from across the nation. One message stands out. A woman from Detroit writes, "I was thrown off a plane once for no reason. I thought no one cared. Thank you for proving our voices matter." Monica sits at the kitchen table, phone in hand, overwhelmed. "David, how do we carry all of this? All these stories, all this hope." David places a steady hand on her shoulder. "We carry it together, and we keep pushing." That's how change happens. The next morning, national headlines plaster her photo across front pages. "Passenger to Powerhouse, Monica Harris sparks airline reckoning." Editorials call for sweeping reform, urging Congress to pass the Passenger Dignity Act immediately. Television pundits argue about how deep the rot goes in corporate culture. Meanwhile, Monica receives an invitation to speak at a major civil rights conference. At first, she hesitates. After all, she never asked for this platform. But David encourages her. "Mon, you didn't choose this fight. It chose you, and right now, the world needs your voice. At the conference, held in a grand auditorium in Atlanta, Monica steps onto the stage. The crowd rises to its feet before she even speaks. Banners hang from the rafters. Dignity for all travelers. She begins softly, her words carrying across the silent hall. I was just trying to sit in my seat, that's all. But what happened to me is what happens to so many others. We've been told for too long to stay quiet, to endure, to hope it gets better on its own. Well, silence never changed the world. Action did. The audience roars in approval. Activists, lawmakers, students, they all rise, clapping until their hands ache. Monica feels the power of a movement bigger than herself. That evening, CNN airs her speech live, labeling it the spark of a new era in passenger rights. Millions watch from living rooms, airports, and cafes. Across the country, ordinary people begin sharing their own stories online, flooding social media with testimonies of discrimination, each one tagged with her name. In one clip, a young girl says, "Because of Mrs. Harris, I know I never have to feel small on a plane again." Monica sits on her porch later that night, watching the city skyline glow in the distance. The air is cool, the stars sharp against the dark. She reflects on the whirlwind of weeks, the humiliation, the trial, the testimony, and now the movement that carries her name. David joins her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. "You realize this is history, don't you?" Monica exhales, her voice quiet but certain. "I realize it's only the beginning." The lawsuits begin piling up like storm clouds. Within days of the congressional hearing, law firms across the country announce class action suits against the airline. Passengers who had long buried their stories now come forward with sworn statements. Wrongful removals, racist remarks, humiliating searches. Employees too, current and former, step into the spotlight. A flight attendant confesses on national television, "We were told to keep problem customers out of sight," and by problem, they meant black passengers. Monica watches these interviews with a heavy heart. Each story mirrors her own pain, yet amplifies it. This wasn't just one moment. It was a culture, a system. She feels a new sense of duty settle on her shoulders. This isn't about vengeance anymore. It's about dismantling something rotten at its core. David, meanwhile, prepares for another battle in the Senate. His staff works late into the night drafting legislation aimed at systemic change. They call it the Air Passenger Dignity Act. The bill proposes strict anti-discrimination measures, mandatory cultural sensitivity training, a federal watchdog for passenger complaints, and severe penalties for airlines that violate rights. When David presents the draft to colleagues, some scoff. "It'll never pass," one senator mutters, but others nod, energized by public outrage. Across party lines, support grows, not because of politics, but because of people. Monica accompanies David to strategy meetings. She doesn't speak much, but her presence speaks volumes. Lobbyists glare at her in hallways, but ordinary staffers give her encouraging smiles. She has become the human face of the bill, the living reminder that real lives are scarred when corporations are left unchecked. Meanwhile, the airline doubles down on damage control. Slick commercials appear on TV, featuring smiling employees and slogans like "flying with respect." But the public doesn't buy it. Memes mocking the ads go viral within hours. A TikTok trend shows users pretending to be respectful airlines by offering passengers empty chairs and sarcastic apologies. The company becomes a punchline, its reputation shredded in real time. Then, an insider whistleblower drops a bombshell. Internal emails revealing that executives had ignored hundreds of discrimination complaints to protect profits. The leaked documents spark outrage. Late-night talk shows roast the CEO, shareholders revolt, demanding resignations, stock prices plummet. Monica sees the CEO on TV again, this time looking broken, no longer smug. He mumbles something about regrettable oversights. The nation shakes its head. Oversights don't handcuff dignity. Oversights don't silence people. Oversights don't leave scars. Through it all, Monica remains steady. She goes about her daily life, shopping, cooking, walking the dog, but everywhere she turns, people recognize her. Strangers thank her at the grocery store. "You spoke for us," an older woman whispers, squeezing her hand. A college student at the gas station says, "You gave me courage to stand up at my job." But the fight takes a toll. At night, Monica lies awake, haunted by flashbacks of that humiliating flight. She remembers the stares, the whispers, the sting of being told she didn't belong. David notices the weariness in her eyes. "You don't have to carry this alone," he reminds her. She nods but doesn't answer, because deep down, she knows she does have to carry it, at least until justice is done. The climax arrives when the Air Passenger Dignity Act is finally introduced on the Senate floor. The chamber buzzes with anticipation. Reporters crowd the press gallery. Protesters fill the streets outside, waving signs that read, "Respect in the skies" and "Justice takes flight." David delivers the opening remarks, his voice steady and forceful. This isn't about one airline, it's about a system that allowed prejudice to fester unchecked. Today, we draw a line. We say every passenger deserves dignity. He gestures toward the gallery, where Monica sits tall, her head held high. Cameras flash. The nation sees her face, the face of every silenced passenger now reclaiming their voice. Debate stretches late into the night. Opponents warn of over-regulation, but public pressure is relentless. Phones in senators' offices ring non-stop. Emails flood inboxes. Social media campaigns tag lawmakers by name, demanding a yes vote. Finally, near midnight, the roll call begins. One by one, senators cast their votes. Monica holds her breath. When the tally appears, 61 in favor, 39 against, the chamber erupts. Applause breaks out, unusual in the solemn halls of Congress. Supporters outside cheer, their voices rising into the night sky. Monica feels tears well up. She clutches David's hand, whispering, "It passed." The next morning, headlines blaze across the nation. "Justice takes flight. Passenger rights bill approved." Editorials call it a turning point, comparing it to the Civil Rights Act in scale and impact. But for Monica, the victory is quieter, more personal. Sitting at her kitchen table, sipping coffee, she reflects on the journey. From humiliation to vindication, from silence to a national movement, she realizes the real power wasn't just in exposing injustice, it was in standing tall when others wanted her to shrink. Later that evening, David finds her gazing out the window at the city lights. "You changed the skies, Mon," he says softly. She shakes her head. "We did, all of us who refused to stay quiet." And in that moment, she knows the fight is far from over. But tonight, for the first time in months, she feels something she once thought lost. Peace. The ink is barely dry on the Air Passenger Dignity Act, and already the ripple effects reach every corner of the aviation world. Airlines scramble to adjust, rushing to issue new guidelines, retrain staff, and assure the public they've changed overnight. News cameras capture scenes of flight attendants attending sensitivity workshops, managers nodding solemnly as consultants lecture about equality. But Monica knows real change isn't built on staged photo ops. It requires persistence. Still, something is undeniably shifting. On her first flight after the bill passes, Monica notices a difference. A black family boards ahead of her, and the flight attendant greets them with genuine warmth, not the strained smiles she's used to seeing. Passengers glance around, more aware, as if silently checking themselves. The atmosphere feels cautious, yes, but also hopeful, like a wound slowly learning to heal. Meanwhile, Monica's phone won't stop buzzing. Civil rights organizations invite her to speak at events. Universities ask her to share her story with students. Even elementary schools send letters, with children scribbling drawings of planes and captions like, "Thank you for making the skies safe." These small gestures move her more than the headlines ever did. They remind her that change trickles down to the next generation. David urges her to take time for herself, but Monica can't. Not yet. She accepts an invitation to a televised panel discussion with airline executives, consumer advocates, and politicians. The studio lights glare, but she stays steady. When asked what she hopes to see 5 years from now, her answer is simple. Not perfection, just accountability. "I want passengers to know if they're wronged. Someone will listen, and someone will act." The audience applauds. The executives shift in their seats. For them, it's a PR battle. For Monica, it's survival. Behind the scenes, however, resistance simmers. Some airline unions grumble about unfair pressure and over-regulation. Anonymous messages flood Monica's inbox. Some supportive, others filled with hate. She deletes the vile ones without hesitation, but David worries. "They're scared of what you represent," he says. And scared people lash out. One evening, Monica receives a call from a young flight attendant named Rosa. Her voice shakes as she explains how she was punished for reporting a colleague's racist remark. "They said I was making trouble, but after your story, I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore." Monica listens, offers advice, and promises to connect Rosa with a lawyer. When the call ends, she sits quietly for a moment, realizing the movement isn't just hers anymore. It belongs to everyone willing to step forward. Meanwhile, the airline that humiliated Monica teeters on the edge of collapse. Lawsuits drain its finances. Passengers boycott in droves. A video goes viral of a nearly empty plane departing a major hub, the camera panning across rows of vacant seats. The caption reads, "This is what happens when respect is optional." Monica feels no satisfaction in their downfall. Instead, she feels a bittersweet heaviness. "It didn't have to be this way," she tells David one night. "If they had just listened, if they had just cared." David wraps an arm around her shoulders. "But then you wouldn't have found your voice, and maybe the world needed to hear it." Weeks later, Monica is invited to the White House. The president himself wants to commend her courage. Standing in the East Room, surrounded by reporters and flashing cameras, Monica listens as he calls her a citizen who reminded us that dignity in travel is dignity in life. She shakes his hand, smiling politely, but inside she thinks of every passenger who endured humiliation in silence. She hopes they feel seen now. The moment sparks another wave of media coverage, but Monica doesn't let it distract her. Instead, she doubles down on grassroots efforts. She organizes workshops at community centers, teaching passengers their rights under the new law. She helps launch a hotline for reporting abuse. And slowly, stories begin to surface, not of discrimination, but of accountability. Passengers sharing how complaints were addressed swiftly, employees describing how training opened their eyes. One Saturday afternoon, Monica strolls through a park when a stranger approaches. A middle-aged man with graying hair and kind eyes introduces himself as Thomas, a former pilot. "I wanted to thank you," he says. "I saw things on the job I didn't speak up about. You gave me the courage to admit that. I wish I'd been braver sooner." His words stay with her long after he walks away. They remind her that justice isn't about tearing down, but about awakening conscience, even in those who once stayed quiet. The story reaches a climax when Monica testifies again before Congress, this time reviewing the bill's impact 6 months after passage. She presents data showing a sharp decline in passenger complaints, a rise in diversity training completions, and most importantly, a new sense of trust between passengers and airlines. Skeptical lawmakers nod, impressed. One remarks, "It seems this bill is not just symbolic, it's working." When Monica steps out of the chamber, a crowd of supporters greets her with cheers. Some hold signs with her face, others simply clap. For the first time, she feels the weight lift. She no longer carries the burden alone. That evening, sitting with David on their porch, Monica watches the sunset. "Do you think it'll last?" she asks. David smiles. "It'll last as long as people like you refuse to give up." And for the first time in a long time, Monica allows herself to believe him. The skies may never be perfect, but they're safer now. For her children, for everyone. Monica wakes early the next morning, her inbox already overflowing. Invitations, testimonies, stories. People from across the country are reaching out. Some share their gratitude, others their own painful encounters in airports and airplanes. A mother writes about her teenage son being humiliated during boarding. A veteran explains how he was profiled and questioned as though he were a threat. Each message is a reminder that discrimination in the skies was never an isolated event. It was systemic, and her fight has cracked it open. She pours coffee, sets her laptop on the kitchen table, and scrolls carefully. "David," she calls softly, "we need to create something bigger than me answering emails one by one. People need a place where their voices matter." David, ever the strategist, nods. "Then let's build it. A foundation. Not just for accountability, but for education, for policy, for change." By the end of that week, the Sky Dignity Foundation is born. A modest nonprofit at first, run out of their home office, staffed by volunteers who believe in Monica's mission. But the impact is immediate. Social media posts spread rapidly. Hashtags trend overnight. Respect in the skies and fly with dignity. Passengers share their relief at knowing there's finally an organization dedicated to protecting them. The airlines notice too. Some CEOs reach out privately, eager to collaborate or at least to avoid more scandals. Others dig in, resistant, dismissing Monica as a troublemaker. But the numbers don't lie. Complaints are down where training programs are adopted. Boycotts intensify where change is resisted. The market itself begins rewarding decency. Meanwhile, Monica steps into a new role. Not just survivor, not just activist, but leader. She travels from city to city, holding town halls, listening to passengers, and even meeting with airline staff who want to do better but feel unsupported by management. She learns quickly that frontline workers often face the same disrespect from within their own companies. Her foundation begins offering confidential hotlines where employees too can report abuse without retaliation. One afternoon in Chicago, Monica addresses a packed community center. She tells her story not with bitterness but with resolve. "This isn't about me," she insists, scanning the audience. "It's about every passenger who bought a ticket and expected fairness. It's about every worker told to stay silent. It's about dignity for all of us." Applause erupts, long and loud. In the back row, a young girl raises her hand timidly. "Ms. Monica, does this mean when I fly one day, no one can tell me I don't belong?" The question cuts through Monica like lightning. She swallows hard before answering. "That's exactly what it means, sweetheart. You belong. We all do." The moment goes viral. Clips of Monica comforting the girl spread across TikTok and Instagram, inspiring millions. The foundation's donations triple in days. Celebrities tweet support. Suddenly, Monica isn't just a voice in hearings. She's a symbol of resilience and progress. But the pushback grows too. On talk radio and certain cable shows, critics call her a disruptor, accuse her of politicizing travel, or claim she exaggerates. She receives veiled threats. Anonymous letters slip into her mailbox, scrawled with hateful words. David urges more security, but Monica refuses to hide. "If they want to scare me silent, they've chosen the wrong woman," she says firmly. The turning point arrives 6 months later when a new scandal rocks a rival airline. A black family is denied boarding under flimsy excuses, filmed by other passengers. The footage explodes online. Protesters chant outside airports. Within hours, the airline's stock plummets. And in the chaos, reporters turn to Monica for comment. At a press conference, she speaks with measured conviction. "We don't need more apologies after the fact. We need prevention before the harm. That's why this fight matters. Because no family should beg for their humanity at the gate." Her words dominate headlines. Politicians on both sides of the aisle echo her call. Federal regulators announce stricter enforcement of passenger rights. Airlines scramble once again, not just to save face, but to survive. Through it all, Monica's personal life shifts too. She and David rarely have quiet dinners anymore. Their home feels more like an office than a refuge. Yet David never complains. He sees the fire in her eyes, the purpose in her step. One night, he takes her hand and whispers, "I married a teacher, but I see now you were always meant to be something bigger." Monica laughs softly, touched. "I just wanted to make the world fairer, one classroom at a time. I never thought it would be 30,000 feet in the air." By autumn, the Sky Dignity Foundation hosts its first national summit in Washington, D.C. Activists, airline leaders, lawmakers, and ordinary passengers gather under one roof. The energy is electric. Workshops tackle unconscious bias, legal rights, and industry accountability. Panels feature voices once ignored: immigrants, disabled travelers, veterans of color. As Monica walks onto the stage for the keynote, the audience rises in a standing ovation. She pauses, overwhelmed. Then, steadying herself, she begins, "We turned humiliation into hope. We turned silence into strength, and today, we prove that dignity is not negotiable. Not in our skies, not in our lives." The room erupts again, cameras flashing, hearts stirred. And in that moment, Monica knows the movement has outgrown her. It belongs to everyone who dares to demand respect. That night, exhausted but fulfilled, Monica steps out onto the balcony of her hotel. The city glows, the air cool, the future uncertain but bright. David joins her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. "You realize," he says, "you're rewriting history. One flight, one story at a time." Monica leans against him, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Then let's keep writing." The summit in Washington becomes the turning point, but with success comes a storm. Within days, headlines shift. Airlines threatened by Monica's growing influence hire powerful lobbyists to discredit her. Think tanks release slick reports downplaying racial bias in air travel, calling it isolated incidents rather than systemic problems. Opinion writers accuse her of seeking fame, not justice. The attacks sting, but Monica refuses to let them break her. Still, the pressure is relentless. Invitations to speak keep pouring in, but so do death threats. At night, Monica sometimes lies awake staring at the ceiling, the words of faceless critics echoing in her mind. Attention seeker, liar, race baiter. David notices her quiet moments, the way her smile falters when she thinks no one is watching. One evening, he sits her down at the kitchen table. "You can't fight this alone," he says softly. "They want to exhaust you until you burn out. But you're not alone, Monica. You've built an army of voices. Let them help carry this." She nods slowly, tears welling. "I know, but every time they attack, I feel like I'm back on that plane, being told I don't belong." David squeezes her hand. "That's exactly why you do belong, because you won't let anyone else feel that way again." The next week, Monica launches a new campaign, Passengers United. Instead of just focusing on her story, the foundation elevates others. Videos flood social media. Testimonies of grandparents humiliated at gates, parents searched without cause, workers harassed in uniform. The stories go viral, not because they're shocking, but because they're heartbreakingly ordinary. Mainstream media can't ignore it. Networks broadcast roundtables featuring Monica and passengers from every walk of life. The public begins to see her less as an isolated activist and more as the face of a movement. But the opposition escalates. At a Senate transportation hearing, a lobbyist sneers across the table. "Ms. Gaines, are you saying every airline worker is racist? Isn't this just a matter of personal grievances, not policy?" Monica sits tall, her voice calm but firm. "This isn't about blaming every worker. It's about systems that allow bias to fester unchecked. When one passenger is mistreated, it's personal. When thousands are, it's policy. And ignoring it doesn't make it go away." The exchange makes headlines. Clips spread across YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. Supporters flood her page with encouragement. "She said what we've all been feeling." That night, Monica receives a call she never expected. The Secretary of Transportation personally invites her to join a task force on aviation reform. It's validation at the highest level, but it also paints a target on her back. Anonymous callers leave voicemails warning her to stop before it gets worse. Her car is keyed outside a town hall. The intimidation is real, but so is the groundswell of hope. Meanwhile, the Sky Dignity Foundation outgrows its humble beginnings. Offices open in New York and Atlanta. Volunteers become staff. Monica hires a team of lawyers to offer pro bono help for passengers filing complaints. Soon, victories stack up. Settlements, policy shifts, even apologies issued publicly by once hostile airlines. One of the most emotional moments arrives during a small ceremony in Detroit. A young mother, once denied boarding with her autistic son, thanks Monica on stage. "Because of you, my child will never again be treated as less than human when we travel. You gave me my dignity back." The audience weeps, Monica included. Yet with every triumph, the pushback hardens. On talk radio, hosts mock her as the Sky Cop Lady. Online trolls swarm her pages. At a conference in Dallas, hecklers shout from the audience, trying to rattle her. Monica doesn't flinch. She leans into the microphone and says, "If shouting at me is your strategy, then you're already losing." The clip goes viral. Overnight, "You're already losing" becomes a rallying cry. Supporters print it on shirts, signs, and banners. Monica never intended to create slogans, but the movement keeps finding its own heartbeat. By summer, the pressure crescendos. Airlines lobby to strip funding from the task force. Political opponents paint her as a radical. Even allies grow nervous about the backlash. At one meeting, a senior lawmaker warns her, "You're moving too fast. If you keep pushing, you'll crash the whole system." Monica responds without hesitation. Maybe the system needs to crash if it's built on discrimination. Her words electrify the room, but also deepen the divide. Some cheer her bravery, others mutter about recklessness. Still, she knows the truth. Change never comes quietly. That night, back in her hotel room, Monica stares at the city lights and whispers to herself, "This fight was never just about me on that flight. It's about everyone who was told to sit down, shut up, and accept disrespect." David, sitting beside her, adds, "And now the whole country's listening. Don't stop now." The chapter closes with Monica walking back into the Capitol a week later, shoulders squared, ready to testify again. Cameras flash, opponents glare, but she no longer feels alone. Behind her marches a movement. In front of her lies a battle. And inside her, a steady voice repeats, "They tried to humiliate me. Instead, they made me unstoppable." The following week begins with a storm. News breaks that one of the largest airlines in the country has funneled millions of dollars into lobbying campaigns designed specifically to undercut the aviation task force. Editorials suddenly appear in multiple newspapers, all painting Monica as a divisive figure who threatens to destabilize the industry. On social media, bot accounts flood threads with the same talking point: she just wants attention. Monica wakes up to see her name trending again, but this time with hashtags that sting. For a moment, she closes her laptop and buries her face in her hands. "They're trying to drown me out." David walks into the kitchen holding 2 cups of coffee. He sets one gently in front of her and leans against the counter. "They're scared," he says simply. "Scared because you finally hit the part of the system that hurts. The money." She takes a deep breath and looks up. "If they can smear me, they can smear the movement. We can't afford that." That night, Monica calls an emergency meeting of Passengers United. The team gathers in the Foundation's modest conference room, now decorated with maps, flight data charts, and piles of testimony transcripts. Volunteers, lawyers, and communication staff all sit forward, waiting for her words. "They want us to back down," Monica begins, her voice steady. "They want us to be so afraid of headlines that we lose sight of the real headlines: families stranded, veterans disrespected, mothers humiliated in front of their children. We are not the problem. We are the solution. And I won't let corporate money rewrite that truth." Applause fills the room. Her staff rallies, brainstorming strategies, fact-checking campaigns, public forums in key cities, alliances with labor unions. For the first time, Monica feels the power of collective resilience. The next major event is a televised town hall in Chicago. The hall is packed: passengers, airline executives, union representatives, and journalists. The moderator wastes no time. "Ms. Gaines, your critics say you're vilifying an entire industry. What do you say to that?" Monica straightens. The lights are hot, cameras rolling, but her voice is clear. "I'm not vilifying an industry. I'm exposing its blind spots. When passengers are denied their humanity, it's not a glitch, it's a design flaw. Fix the design, and the industry will be stronger for it." The audience erupts, half cheers, half boos. Airline executives exchange sharp whispers, but the live stream explodes online. Clips circulate, and hashtags flip overnight. Where trolls once dominated, genuine passengers now post their own clips under hashtag Fix the Design. 2 days later, Monica receives another phone call from Washington. The Secretary of Transportation asks her to testify again, this time before the full Senate committee. It's the highest stage yet, but it also means facing the fiercest opposition. David insists on accompanying her. "They'll try to rattle you," he warns, "but remember, you've already won more hearts than they'll admit." The morning of the hearing, Monica steps into the Capitol building wearing a simple navy suit. Cameras flash. Protesters outside wave both supportive and hostile signs. Inside the chamber, senators sit like watchful hawks. One senator leans into the microphone. "Ms. Gaines, some argue your movement is costing the airlines billions, leading to layoffs. How do you respond to the accusation that your activism is hurting working-class employees?" Monica meets his gaze. "It's not my movement hurting workers. It's decades of unchecked bias and mismanagement. Accountability doesn't kill jobs. It creates fairness. The true threat to workers is a system that sees them as disposable while protecting executives at the top." The room murmurs. Some senators nod, others scowl, but the statement lands. News outlets pick it up instantly. That evening, Monica appears on primetime news. The host asks, "Are you prepared for this fight to go all the way? Because it looks like the airlines aren't backing down." Monica doesn't hesitate. "I was humiliated once on a plane. That moment could have broken me. Instead, it built a fire in me that no smear campaign can put out. So yes, I'm prepared. Because this isn't just my fight, it's everyone's fight." The clip plays across the nation. Supporters flood airports with signs. Strangers greet her with hugs. But the backlash sharpens too. Anonymous emails threaten her family. Late-night calls whisper, "We're watching." For safety, David insists on increasing security at their home. Despite the fear, Monica presses forward. Her foundation launches a nationwide petition demanding federal oversight of airline discrimination. Within a week, it gathers over 1 million signatures. The scale shocks even her allies. Then comes the breaking point. A leaked memo from an airline lobby reveals a strategy to discredit Monica personally, using private investigators to dig into her past. The smear campaign hits the press within days, but something remarkable happens. Instead of damaging her, it backfires. Passengers rally to her defense, posting their own stories under hashtags like, "I stand with Monica." The tide shifts again. Even skeptical lawmakers begin to side with her. For the first time, the airlines look nervous. At home, Monica and David sit together on the porch watching the sunset. She leans her head on his shoulder. "I never imagined one flight would lead to all this," she whispers. David wraps an arm around her. "That's because you turned humiliation into hope, and hope, Monica, is unstoppable." As the chapter closes, Monica prepares for her most important fight yet, pushing legislation that could change air travel forever. She knows the battle ahead will be brutal, but she also knows she's no longer just a passenger who was mistreated. She's the voice of millions. The morning sky over Washington is a cold gray, the kind that makes the Capitol dome look even more imposing. Monica wakes before dawn, unable to sleep. Today is the vote. Weeks of hearings, testimony, and public outcry have all led here. The Passenger Protection and Equality Act, the bill she fought for, hangs in the balance. She sits at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. David stirs and sits up beside her. "You ready?" he asks, voice low, calm. Monica exhales, steadying her nerves. "As ready as I'll ever be." By mid-morning, the Senate gallery is packed. Cameras line the back wall. Spectators fill every seat. Passengers, veterans, civil rights leaders, airline lobbyists. The air is electric, a storm of anticipation and tension. The clerk begins the roll call vote. Each senator's name echoes through the chamber. Aye, nay, the words fall like hammers. Monica grips David's hand so tightly her knuckles whiten. While the votes are tallied, a reporter whispers updates into a live broadcast. It's razor thin, could go either way. Then, silence. The presiding officer clears his throat. On the motion to advance the Passenger Protection and Equality Act, the yeas are 52, the nays are 48. The motion passes. The room erupts. Cheers from the gallery clash with groans from the lobbyists. Monica's eyes brim with tears. For a split second, she can't move. Then David squeezes her hand and whispers, "You did it." She stands. Cameras zoom in. The once humiliated passenger now looks unbreakable, her posture proud. Outside the chamber, a crowd chants her name. Reporters rush forward with microphones. "Ms. Gaines, what does this mean for passengers?" one shouts. Monica steadies herself, then speaks with conviction. "It means fairness. It means accountability. It means that no passenger, no matter their color, gender, or background, will ever be treated as less than human." Today is proof that one voice, multiplied by millions, can change the course of history. The clip streams live across the nation. Social media explodes. #Monicas. Bill trends instantly. For many, the memory of her humiliation on that flight feels like a lifetime ago. But the battle isn't over. Outside, lobbyists vow to challenge the bill in court. Airline stocks tumble. News anchors debate whether the legislation will truly hold. The war is shifting, but the victory is real. That evening, Monica and David return home. Their porch light flickers in the dusk, and a small group of neighbors wait outside with candles, singing softly. When Monica steps from the car, the group breaks into applause. She feels her chest tighten, not from fear this time, from gratitude. Inside, Monica finally allows herself to breathe. She sinks into the couch, exhaustion washing over her. David places a glass of water in her hand. "You changed the law today," he says. "No one can take that away." Her phone buzzes. A message from a young woman she's never met. "I was thrown off a flight last year for no reason. Today I cried watching you speak. You made me believe in justice again." Monica closes her eyes, clutching the phone. Every sacrifice, every insult, every sleepless night, suddenly it all makes sense. The next morning, newspapers across the country feature her on the front page. Passenger who sparked national debate sees victory in Senate. Editorials that once mocked her now praise her resilience. Even some critics admit grudging respect. But Monica isn't celebrating alone. She calls an emergency meeting of Passengers United. Her team gathers around the conference table, still buzzing with excitement. "We did it," she tells them, "but this is just the first step. Now we make sure the law is enforced. Now we make sure no one is ever humiliated in the sky again." Her staff nods, energized. Plans for watchdog programs, legal hotlines, and public awareness campaigns fill the board. By evening, Monica stands before a crowd in Chicago, speaking at a rally organized by civil rights groups. She holds the microphone with steady hands. "I was once told I didn't deserve a seat on a plane. Today, together, we've claimed a seat in history, and we're not giving it up." The crowd roars, chants rising like thunder. As the chapter closes, Monica reflects on her journey. She was once just a passenger dismissed by a flight attendant. Now she's a national figure, a symbol of persistence, dignity, and justice. The scars remain, but they have become her strength. Above the noise of the rally, Monica whispers to herself, "This isn't the end. It's the beginning."